I'm also working on a game called Once Upon a Coma. I love making games. I've been doing it for about 10 years. And there's a ton of videos and tutorials online that I've watched to learn how to make games. Especially when I was making my first game. I can't tell you how much research I did on Google, and I think before YouTube was really a thing. I was doing just a ton of tutorials, as many as I could find, but I never really found a video that told me how I should feel as a game developer. Some emotional pitfalls that you're going to experience as a game developer, especially when you're making your first game. So I want to make a video with 5 things that you're going to feel, and I promise you, you're going to feel these things when you make your very first game. So let's go ahead and get started. The first thing you're going to feel, and it's kind of annoying because everybody talks about this is kind of like a meme in the video game industry. You're going to feel like an imposter, and it's called the imposter syndrome. And Notch, the creator of Minecraft, talks a lot about this feeling like you're a fraud, feeling like you're not a professional, feeling like you're not good enough, and that people are going to find out. Sometimes Sometimes I've felt this way, especially in the past. I felt like I was putting on maybe a mask or something that made me appear like I was a confident professional game developer, when in reality I was lying to everybody and I was a fraud and I was going to be found out, right? Ooh, I'm going to be found out. Well, the thing is that most people will say, you're not a fraud, you're great, you can do it, you're a professional, you're amazing. I appreciate the encouragement here, but the best advice that I've told myself, and nobody ever told me this, I kind of had to figure it out, is it's okay to be a fraud. It's okay to not be great. I think a better way to put it is not necessarily it's okay to be a fraud, it's okay to not pretend. You don't have to put on a facade. You don't have to try and be someone you're not. Just know that it's okay to be incompetent, to not know exactly what you're doing. If any of you have ever worked a desk job, a cubicle job, or maybe gone to university, you understand that the adults in the room, or the people who are smarter than you, they're really not that much smarter. Sure, they've had experience, but I think everybody in some way is walking around pretending they're someone they're not. So be one of the few people out there who's honest about who you are, and learn a lot, and be willing to be humble, because those people, the people who have humility, are definitely the people who are going to rise to the top. Because 1, you're going to learn a lot, and 2, the people at the top realize that you're humble and they want to work with you. In the end, it's okay to feel like a fraud. The best medicine for feeling like a fraud is admitting to yourself that you don't know everything, and that it's time to admit it to everybody and learn and have fun. Okay, the second thing that you're going to learn when making your very first game is you're going to hate it. You're going to hate your game. Oh no, this is so sad. You're so excited right now. You're working on your game, you love it, you're passionate, you can't stop thinking about it, you're up all night. It's like you're girlfriend, right? You're infatuated with this game. Well, the truth is that you're going to learn, just like any relationship, you're going to learn to hate things about your game. And you might even hate it across the board. But here's the thing, be careful. The reason I'm telling you that you're going to hate your game is so that you can emotionally invest and prepare for that fact, so that you don't quit your game. Don't quit on your game just like you don't quit on a marriage just because it's difficult. Okay, your game is going to become something that you don't really like. Those first few months of excitement for your game are amazing. You're infatuated, you're in love, you love the thing. But it's going to fade, and the months after that are going to be the most challenging months of finishing your game, or years of finishing your game. I spent 5 years working on my game Pinstripe, and now I've worked about 2 to 2.5 years. Wait, is it 3 years? It's something, I can't even remember. Like maybe 3 years on this next game I'm working on called Once Upon a Coma. I promise you 80% of the time it's just been boring and I don't really like the games, but I'm finishing them. Now here's the best part of this relationship you have with your game. The infatuation is fun, the challenges, the dislike, almost the loathing of your game, that's not so fun. But when you finish it, that's love, right? That's commitment. And you're going to feel that love. You're not only going to feel that love for your project, but you're going to feel the love coming back from your project in the form of money, or praise, or comments, or anything, reviews. After 5 years of working on Pinstripe, I was thrilled to see that Rolling Stone, Vice, Time Magazine, Washington Post, PC Gamer, GameSpot, in spite of the bad review, all of these publications wrote articles about Pinstripe, and that was a dream come true. Also, the audience across the world received the game very well with a 9 out of 10 on Steam, so all I can say is it paid off. That feeling of loathing my game, it was worth it, because it paid off in the long run. Number 3, you're gonna want to quit. I promise you, you're gonna want to quit your game. This relates to the second one. It's okay to feel the feeling of wanting to quit your game. You're not a bad person, you're not a screw-up, you're not a failure. Everyone wants to quit something. We don't want to follow through. But here's why you do want to follow through. Because what we talked about earlier, it pays off. Okay, it pays off. Let's pretend for a second that your game doesn't pay off, and that the audience doesn't like your game, and that the publications across the world don't actually like your game, or they don't even write about your game. Well, was it worth it? Should you have followed through? The answer is absolutely 100% no. You should quit. You're a fraud. No, of course not. You really do need to follow through. The reason why is you're building muscle in here, okay? I've finished a lot of projects in my life. From middle school all the way up till the end of college, I finished dozens of projects, none of which had any real positive outcomes other than me growing as an individual. The thing is that the reason why most game developers fail and why a lot of entrepreneurs fail is because they just don't know how to finish something. They're weak. They have a weak mind and a weak work ethic. Following through is all about being able to mentally work through all of the fear, all of the feelings of insecurity and being a fraud and feeling like you're not enough. Being an entrepreneur, being a game developer requires you to work through that. I tell you what, my mind has a lot of emotional muscle because I followed through. A lot of you right now, your mind is a bit weak because you're not exercising it. Think of your mind as a muscle, and you've got to exercise it. You've got to practice being confident in yourself and in your game. And you cannot practice effectively if you're quitting stuff all of the time. Follow through, be repetitive. Think about going to the gym, which is something I love doing. You are very repetitive, day after day. Mondays are the same day, Tuesdays are the same day, Wednesdays are the same day, Thursdays are the same day. On and on, it's a loop, but you're growing. It's repetitive, it can be numbing, but it's not numbing when you look back and look at what you've achieved and how much you've grown. Number 4, mental illness might reveal itself. And I'm not making a joke here, I'm dead serious. There are certain mental illnesses that I think we all have a propensity to getting. For me, it was anxiety for a lot of years, and especially during launch seasons, which is like 2 months before you launch a game, a lot of anxiety will come up, and it turns into like this generalized anxiety. Can't tell you how many times I've been on and off different kinds of meds, trying to feel better, blah, blah, blah. Best thing for me was just going to the gym and exercising and learning to control my mind and all the worry and not staying awake at night just thinking about stuff, but forcing myself to not think about stuff. But all that said, if you feel anxious, if you feel depressed, if you feel kind of like you may be a little bit bipolar or you're OCD about certain things, a lot of these things are mental illnesses that reveal. If you feel anxious, if you feel depressed, if you feel kind of like you may be a little bit bipolar or you're OCD about certain things, a lot of these things.
Zaszło! Zaszło! Играешь круто. Моя бабуля ногой лучше играет, чем руками. Ногами играть.
Ну вот нет, нет. Даже дорога, понял, как печально, блин. Так интересно. такой, вот они говорят, или кто вообще, кто я?
Things are mental illnesses that reveal themselves. Maybe you feel depressed, if you feel kind of like you maybe a little bit bipolar or you're OCD about certain things. A lot of these things are mental illnesses that reveal themselves. Maybe you didn't know you had them, but you just needed the right stimulus to push it forward and show itself. So don't feel bad, don't feel like you're a fraud or a fake or you're not the right person to be making games just because these things show up. It's okay that they show up. Now what I'm going to say is don't make them your identity and don't turn it into something that you think you just have to deal with. I'm the kind of guy who, if I have a problem, I know that there is a solution. There's a solution to my anxiety, and I solved that a long time ago, and I don't worry about worrying anymore. But when I was going through it, I felt like there was no answer, there was no solution, and I felt like a fraud. A lot of people might ask, why do game developers often feel so anxious? Well, the reason is because building a game is building a world. You're playing God. And the truth is, we're all not gods, right? We're human beings, and so we're going to create flawed products. For me, I always feel like I'm building a house of cards, and I'm just waiting for it to crumble. Right now, I'm working on a game called Once Upon a Coma, and I'll be honest, I haven't felt confident with this game. It's just the way it goes. I felt like I'm putting together pieces of paper and building this rickety mansion that maybe people will enjoy, but it's probably going to crumble. That's how I feel all the time. And so there's always this generalized anxiety going on. It's just this lull, feeling like you could do more to avoid the inevitable. If you feel like a storm is coming, if you feel like this dreaded storm is coming, meaning GameSpot gives you a 5 out of 10, that happened with Pinstripe, or you get a really bad review, or the audience hates your game, or the sales aren't good enough, you feel like all these things are looming, you feel like they're always going to happen, you're always going to feel like you should be doing more. So this leads to being a workaholic, which just sort of puts it into this death spiral of working more, feeling anxious more, and then it just leads you to crash and burn. So, if you're feeling these things, please, number one, don't feel bad, but number two, find a solution. Go for a walk. Stop worrying. Life is more than games. There's a ton of different things that I could tell you. Maybe I'll create a whole video on how you can avoid anxiety. Overall, just relax. It's okay. It's okay. Your game is not everything. I'm trying to talk myself down here because I've been feeling a little bit anxious the past couple weeks. The fifth and final thing that you're going to find out when you're creating your very first game is your friends and family don't understand what the hell you're doing, number one, and number two, they don't understand your schedule. They don't understand when you're going to launch a game because you keep telling them, I'm almost done, I'll be done in a couple months, when in reality it takes a couple years, and they're thinking, in their heads, they're thinking, you told me you were going to finish the game in a month, but it's taking you a year, you must be lying, or you must be lazy. When the truth is, even people like, is it Kojima? I think it's Kojima or Miyamoto, one of the two, said that a delayed game can be good, but a rushed game is always going to be bad. He said something like that. My editor will put a quote on the screen. But your family won't really understand this. And I say family, what I mean is just your close circle of friends that maybe don't understand your career. They're going to be really confused. They're not going to understand why you're working so long on this game. It's kind of like, in their mind, he's painting a picture. Why is this picture taking so long? And in your mind, it's, no, I'm actually programming a picture. I'm writing music for a picture. I'm creating millions of pictures. I'm animating this picture. There's a ton of different trades and talents that you have to put into one product. And it's really difficult to try and explain this to people who really aren't in the industry. So people might not understand who you are. They might not understand what you're doing, why it's valuable, whether you're wasting your time. So here is one piece of advice regarding this point. Don't listen to them. Don't listen to people who don't understand what you're doing. Listen to people who are in the industry. Listen to me, right? Listen to people who are in the game industry because they're going to give you advice that is real, that makes sense, that you can better understand because they understand you. Love them to bits, kiss them on the lips, but they don't fully understand what you're doing. Anyways, guys, my name is Thomas Brush. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please hit the subscribe button or leave a comment or a like, and I'll try to answer your questions as best as I can. Thanks, guys. Bye.
Чем ты путаешь ты меня, а? Наоборот, что-то... Я говорил, ну вот нет, наоборот. Вот на, тебе думаю, что... Наоборот. Да, наоборот, думаете себе, тебя думаете. Не, у меня такого плана нет. Просто так получилось почему-то. Не знаю, пока так, согласен. Женя.
Hey guys, my name is Thomas Brush. I'm the creator of a game called Pinstripe. I'm also working on a game called Once Upon a Coma. I've been making games
Временный проигрыш, ну чё? Ну, дался, да.
for 10 years, and in those 10 years I've been running my own game studio, paying for the mortgage, paying the company's bills, paying for my family, my wife and daughter and my dog. I've been doing all this with game development. It's my job. I'm an indie game developer. It's the best job on earth, and I had no idea how to start an indie game studio. And I think the worst thing was I had no idea how easy and possible it actually was to do it. So I didn't really know what I was doing. I was just aimlessly wandering around. And I wish I had somebody like me to tell me some baby steps, some quick steps that I could take to start a game studio in a short amount of time. Believe it or not, you can make a game studio in a year. And so I want to give you 12 steps, and that's month by month, of how you can start your indie game studio. Now, obviously, this has to do with you. It has to do with you being disciplined and working hard. I can't guarantee anything if you're not going to work your butt off on making this happen. Now, you're going to be tempted to think that your surroundings, your world, maybe your identity, or how you were born, or how you grew up, or your family, you're going to be tempted to blame all of those things. But what I want you to do for this 1 year is realize that you are the person that's going to make this happen. Nothing else is going to stop you. You are going to make this happen. So let's talk about the 12 steps, the 12 month-to-month steps that you can do to achieve your very first indie game studio. Let's get started. Now, before I tell you the month-to-month steps for you to start your indie game studio, I want to talk about something like Skillshare. And I'm really excited to talk about Skillshare because honestly, guys, Skillshare can be used in these 12 steps. Skillshare can teach you how to make great sound effects for your game, great music for your game, great story, teach you Unity, teach you C#, teach you 3D design, Photoshop, UX design. Whatever you need to learn about game development, creating your indie game studio, it can be learned on Skillshare. So, if you guys want 2 free months of Skillshare, click the link in the description. Spend 2 to 3 hours a day for a month brainstorming a generic, small game idea. Be sure that this idea that you have, this generic idea, is small and it's sticky. What I mean by sticky is that when you throw it at somebody, when you throw this idea at somebody, they can catch it quick. And they understand what you're saying. It makes sense. And preferably, they get excited and they start offering more ideas. A really good example of a sticky idea is Super Mario Odyssey. The idea was, what if you had a hat and that hat gave you all sorts of abilities? And so they just stacked up idea after idea after idea, the simple concept of throwing your hat, right? That's a really sticky idea. And notice how it's small. It's like a diamond. Think of it as a diamond. It's small, but super valuable. So I need you to spend a month just brainstorming 2 to 3 hours a day, and that means working through lunch, and that means working in the mornings, early before work, or late into the evening. This is probably the most important step for your year-long process of creating your indie game studio. Now, once you have this idea, I need you to pitch it to people. I need you to pitch it to friends and family members. Only pitch it to people who play video games, and only pitch it to people who want to see you succeed. There are a lot of people in your life who don't want to see you succeed because they aren't succeeding. So be sure that you're talking to people who want to see you succeed. Otherwise, they're going to turn down your ideas, tell you it's a bad idea, and make you feel bad about yourself. So that's the first month. It's huge, an important month, because everything else is going to lay on this foundation, this small, tiny idea. Doesn't mean your idea is not going to change to a degree, but everything is going to lay on this foundation. All right, the second month, the second step to create your indie game studio in a year is you need to learn the basics, just the basics of Unity and some art tool, okay? So that could be Photoshop if you want to make a 2D game, or that could be Blender or Cinema 4D for creating 3D stuff. Now this is just the basics, guys. You're going to be learning about the software as you're moving through the year, as you're creating your game, okay? But this second month is learning the basics. So I need you to spend 2 to 3 hours a day, every day for a month, just focusing on learning the basics of Unity. That means that understanding the software environment, understanding how things interact with one another, opening up Blender, taking Blender tutorials. There's a ton of places to be able to learn this software. So there really is no excuse, guys. We are in the best time in human history to learn and create things, to create worlds. We have no excuse. So spend that second month learning Blender or Photoshop or both if you want, and then Unity. Just the basics. It's okay if you're not perfect, just the basics. Okay, the third month in this process is learning C#. Now, most of you have some kind of understanding about code. Now, if you have no idea about syntax or code, learning C# in a month might be a bit of a challenge, but I would just say if you can't get it done in a month, make it 2 months, make it 3 months. It's okay if it extends beyond a year. For those of you who know how to generally code and understand the syntax, I think you can learn the basics of C#, especially in the context of Unity, because Unity does a really good job of sort of helping you along as you code. There's so many amazing tutorials, and also writing scripts in Visual Studio kind of does it for you in a way. There's a lot of recommendations in Visual Studio, so I believe that you can learn it in a month. Now, the fourth month is sort of rinse and repeat all of this, okay? Especially months 2 and 3. The fourth month should be spent going back over Unity and Photoshop and Blender and C# and just making sure you understand the basics. Guys, if you think about it, these 4 months are really spent on just learning the basics of software and understanding what your prototype is. It sounds like you're compressing a lot, but I believe that you can actually do it, especially when you focus on doing 2 to 3 hours a day, every day, for these 4 months. This is when things get fun, okay? The 5th month is you are going to create a terrible looking, horrible looking prototype, only 1 level for this idea that you created in your first month. This prototype must look terrible. If you find that your prototype actually looks kind of cool, you've wasted your time. And the reason why is because the prototype phase should be a highly economical, quick phase. It's almost like a game jam. You need to get this prototype done quick because you don't want to spend any other time working on artwork or music or making this thing look polished. And the reason why is because when you actually test it with a focus group, when you do focus testing, people are going to want to change a lot about your game. And they're going to reveal things to you that you didn't know and you didn't fully understand. So once you actually have an understanding of what's wrong with your prototype, going back and fixing it, you're probably going to recreate it. You're going to start from the ground up and make it better. So polishing, this is not the time for polish. So this is month 5. Build a terrible looking prototype. Only 1 level. Once you finish this generic, terrible looking prototype, doesn't mean that it's not fun. Just because something looks terrible doesn't mean it's not fun. Alright, we made it to the 6th month. Relax a little bit. The reason why is because it's kind of like why I sometimes take walks. It's because I need a reboot. I need a refresh. Okay? So you need to take a break. And the way that you're going to take a breather is you're just going to send your prototype out to friends. Remember those 5 friends I was talking about earlier? These are individuals who want to see you succeed. These are individuals who play games, understand games, like playing games. I need you to send your prototype to these individuals, and I need you to get their feedback. A way that you can get feedback, probably the best way is, get a couple of beers, go to your friend's house, load up your game, turn out the lights, drink a beer, and write down every single thing that your friend talks about that frustrates them or bothers them, okay? Now this is with 5 friends, so you're going to get a lot of feedback. You might get 100 to 200 things you need to change about your prototype. But this is a great way to do focus testing. Now, if you have some extra time in this month, Send your build off to some friends that maybe are in another state, or maybe your Twitter followers, or maybe if you have a YouTube channel, see if some of your YouTube subscribers want to play your game, and offer up feedback in a Google form. But overall, this month is just you taking a breather and getting feedback from people about what you've achieved and what they think about your prototype. All right, now that you've had a breather, it's time to kick it into overdrive in the 7th month. The 7th month is fine-tuning based on feedback. 30 days, 2 to 3 hours a day of just fine-tuning your game based on the feedback that you received from your friends. That's honestly the 7th month. Just nose to the grindstone. Is that a word? Is that a phrase? I think it is. Nose to the grindstone. Let's just pretend it is a phrase. Let's pretend it is a phrase. Put your nose to the grindstone and get those changes done. Now the 8th month, this is where things get really fun. It doesn't mean it's not hard work, but this is where things get fun. I need you to polish the heck out of this prototype. Make it look beautiful. Start putting image effects and camera effects and motion blur and a ton of game feel elements. By the way, guys, if you want to learn about game feel, just type in game feel tutorial or game feel lecture on YouTube, and there are some incredible videos about how to make your game feel good. That means screen shake, that means particle explosions, that means the sound effects having good bass and good treble. I could go on and on about what makes good game feel. This is the month where you polish it and make it look amazing. Again, guys, it's just one level. We're not creating a game with a ton of levels. It's just one level with that core game loop. Once you've achieved the polish that you want in those 30 days, it's time for you to purchase a couple things. Now, this is going to cost you probably $2,000 to $3,000. To me, it's totally worth it. This is a great time to maybe ask your friends, say, okay, what do you think about this game? Do you honestly think that this game is worth any more time or investment on my part? Again, if these friends really want to see you succeed, they'll be honest with you. If they say, yeah, I really like this game and I think it can be successful, this could be a really good time for you to decide whether you want to get a little bit of a loan or use savings to purchase the next two things that I'm going to talk about. In month 9 and month 10, I need you to source. I need you to find an amazing video game
Видишь, какой
musician.
ничего, у меня даже сейвингсов нету никаких. Я понял, наоборот. Нет, наоборот. Ладно. Вот их хорошо. Лучше, ну, знаете, тебя знать. Ваня, понял.
They're all over the place. So this is why it's going to take maybe a month of your time, 30 days for you to source the perfect musician for your game. This could be somebody as high profile as Christopher Larkin. I mean, if you pay him the right amount of money, he might make, and he made the soundtrack for Hollow Knight, by the way. Or finding someone like me who can write music. Now, I do understand some of you saying that you could find a song on Epidemic Sound, or productioncrate.com, or Pond5, or there's just a ton of websites where you can download a song that works for your game. I think most of us, as game developers, aren't really art directors, okay? So a lot of you watching this might not have a good understanding of what a good song is, what makes a player really feel good. And so that's why, to me, it's more risky to spend all this time making a prototype and then not spend the money on someone who knows how to write music for games and knows how to make a song match your game's feeling. It's a wiser decision to do that. So pay for someone to make a song, one song for your game. Make sure it feels perfect. Now once you've done that and you put it in your game, then what I would say is purchase an incredible piece of 4K art for your cover and for your logo so that you could send it to people and pitch it to publishers. So we're about to get to the end of this year. Now some of you are thinking, I didn't make a game. I just made a prototype. I made a demo. That's right, you don't need a game to start a game studio. Once you have a demo with beautiful music, once you have a game that has a beautiful front cover with a beautiful logo, it's time to start pitching your game to publishers and consider doing crowdsourcing. This is the moment of truth, guys. And I know a lot of you want to release a game in a year. If you've never made a game and don't really understand how to make a game, it is not possible to get a great game done in a year. But it is possible to secure funding so that you can finish it in the next year. In months 11 through 12, I need you to reach out to 100 indie game publishers with concise emails that include everything that's part of your game. Here is the demo, here is the trailer, here is the gameplay footage, here is my press kit, and if you want to understand how to make a press kit, just type in indie game press kit, and Google will tell you how to do that. And this is where you can also consider building a Kickstarter campaign. Now, if you guys truly, honestly created a great prototype, if you created something that's really special, and it's short, let's say it's 5 minutes long, or 10 minutes long, if the core game loop works, if the music really works, if the art really works, and you've made something that you think is really special, publishers will buy this. If they like your core game loop, and you did it all on your own, they're going to buy it. Now, if it's your first game, they might give you $30,000, they might give you $100,000. But this money is where you finally say, I'm going to quit my job and I'm going to make this game awesome. See, this first year, guys, it was about understanding how to make an incredible prototype that you could sell. Or, guys, if you don't want to work with a publisher, you can build a Kickstarter campaign. Now, this is just a side note, but a lot of individuals think that Kickstarter campaigns need to have a fully completed game. And I think what's happened here is that most Kickstarter campaigns that look really great, they did a really good job of tricking you that they had a really long, fully fleshed out game. What they probably did is had a really good prototype, and then they created a lot of cool trailer graphics and effects to make the game feel more alive and more full. The truth is, guys, if you have 5 minutes of gameplay to share on Kickstarter and then a really good pitch, you can have a successful Kickstarter campaign, even with a small prototype. Alright guys, that is my 1-year plan for creating an indie game studio. If you guys like this video, please hit subscribe, leave a comment, and I'll try and answer as best as I can, and leave a like. Also guys, I'm about to release my game Once Upon a Coma. It's my second commercial release. We're going to release it on consoles and PC and Mac. If you guys are interested in that game, please wishlist the game in the link in the description. Thanks guys.
Чего даже мне понравилось? Показаться. Да наоборот, да, вот он говорит, больно же вообще, что ты даже не знаешь. Ну,
И что, он единственный владеет? Ага, конечно. Я на автору проверил, машину 3 раза уже продавали. Зачем они так делают, а?
Узнай прошлые машины. Купи отчет про авто на автору.
Hey guys, how's it going? My name is Thomas Fresh and I make indie games for a living. But today is not about me, it's actually about one of my good friends and a former intern, and his name is Adam Smith. Adam helped me out with a pinstripe port while he was a student in college, and he's just been so helpful to me. And so